Hello, this is Albemarle Digger. I just got back from the post office where I received a box from a client in Clarksville, Ohio. This client had seen some of my earlier videos on reconstruction of ration cans and the reconstruction of the mess plate. And he had a canteen that he wanted to have me restore. So let's see what's in the box here and see what we can do for this client. Well, the box is open now. There's a bag here in the top of it. See what's in the bag, if anything. It appears to be just packing. But we'll go through it anyhow and make sure there's no parts or pieces that we might need for the reconstruction. I don't feel anything in here, so I'll set this packing aside and get down to the goodies that lie right below it. Open up this bag, and there's a bunch of pieces. Oh my gosh. Look at all those pieces there. Well, I guess we'll pull them out and see what we have to work with and see what this project really is going to involve. I've taken all the pieces out of the box and placed them in this glass baking dish. I think now you can see the extent of this project. There's a lot of parts and pieces here to work with, but here's a piece that looks like it's sort of round. That probably is the face of the canteen. There's a piece that looks like it's a uniform width anyhow, so I'm assuming that's the side of the canteen. But anyhow, I'll get all these parts and pieces and lay them out and see what I can come up with. Buried beneath all the parts and pieces, I found what I believe to be the original rim to the canteen, and it still appears to be intact. Finding this rim was a great bonus. Not only does it determine the size of the canteen, but it also determines the shape of the canteen. So my first step was to use it to make a wooden pattern that I'll be using throughout this project for different things. This pattern is made out of poplar, and it's about 1/2 inch thick, so it's a good sturdy piece to work with. My next step was to trace around the wooden pattern onto some styrofoam that I was using. It's styrofoam sheathing that I'll be using for the form with which to build the canteen around. As you can see, I've sandwiched a piece of 1/4 inch plywood between the layers of foam. This made it about the right thickness to coincide with the piece of edge that or what I think is the edge of the canteen, and makes the form just about the right thickness. So we'll start with that anyhow. Notice that both the front and the back of the form are covered in foil. I'm going to have to do the same thing along the edge of the form as well. So what I'm going to do is take the aluminum tape that they use in HVAC work, as you can see here, and I'm going to cut a strip like this, and I'm going to wrap the edges of the canteen pattern with it. Well, the tape turns out to be a little bit wider than the form itself, which is good. This will allow me to take the edges, as you can see here, and fold them over around it, and that'll add to the strength and the integrity of the form itself. Once it's folded over, I'm going to take one of these rollers and roll the edge so it makes it nice and smooth and doesn't interfere with the reconstruction. The glue that I use for this type of project is applied at 380 degrees. So the purpose of the foil is to keep the foam from melting during the reconstruction process. The rim of the canteen fits nicely over the form, so the next step will be to sort through all these pieces, lay them out, and use a magnifying glass to match the pieces up and try to reconstruct the fronts and the back of the canteen the best that I can. However, I'm not going to glue the pieces directly to the foil-covered form here, but I'm going to use my poplar pattern, and I'm going to scribe around a piece of cardstock, make a shape of the canteen there, and I'm going to use that to lay the pieces out on. I actually will glue the pieces as they fall into place. I'll glue them right directly onto that cardstock. It's Saturday morning, January 30th, 2010, and I've finally finished reconstructing one side of the canteen. As you can see, it'll fit nicely into the ring once it's laid into place, and it'll be ready to go. Initially, I treated it with one coat of rust fix like I do in all my projects, just to stabilize the pieces while I work with them. Here I have given the reconstructed face a very generous portion of that rust converter that you see right there, and it'll work into the cracks and add a lot of body to the face. This steak takes 24 hours to dry. I've done the front and the back, laid it on the poplar form, and I will let it dry for its 24 hours. 24 hours is up, and as you can see, the rust converter has worked nicely into the cracks, done a fairly good job on its first coat filling them, added a little bit of structural integrity to the piece. This is what the back looks like, and as you can see, it's pretty stable piece right now. Here it is in a little different light. While this one was curing, I was actually working on the other side of the canteen as well. So both sides are done now, and I'll show you what it looks like in a sec. The reconstruction has been completed, and the canteen is now ready for its cosmetic work. I have a question for you. What do you do when you're out relic hunting and you dig those nondescript little pieces of iron that are so rusty that they've almost returned to dirt? The ones that you can't identify. The ones that have no real meaning to them. Well, I know what I do. I bring them all home with me, and I keep them in a box where I'll use them on projects like this. I take them and put them in a piece of cloth, roll it up into a little ball, and I smash it with a hammer. Turn it into sort of a rust dust, if you will. That's right. I put it into a piece of cloth, roll it up into a ball, grab my handy hammer, and start smashing away. I smash and rotate and smash and rotate until I end up with a little ball full of what I think is good dust. I open it up, and if there are any pieces that are too large, I take the hammer and start smashing again. When I'm satisfied that I have a nice pile of dust and it's the consistency that I'd like to work with, I pick up the cloth and dump it into a bowl where I keep it for projects just like this one. The cosmetic stage begins by taking a can of satin finish polyurethane and spraying a very heavy coat onto the surface of the canteen. You want to spray until the surface appears very wet. At that point, you reach into your bucket of rust dust and sprinkle it over the surface of the canteen, trying to get a good even layer across the entire surface. When you're satisfied that you have a good even coat, pick it up and dump the crumbs off, the ones that didn't adhere to the urethane. Then you grab the urethane again and spray another coat, a pretty heavy coat, on top of the rust dust that you just put on. While the surface is still wet with urethane, I take a little bit of Painter's Touch flat black spray paint and give the surface of the canteen just a light dusting. This adds to the depth of the patina that will develop. And then I give it another quick coat of the polyurethane right on top of the black spray paint. Depending on the look that you want to achieve and how many holes and cracks you want to fill up, this process may have to be repeated twice. But if it does, you have to make sure that the piece is allowed to dry between applications. After the urethane has had ample time to dry, the final stage in the restoration or reconstruction process is to give the canteen a final coat of the Total Solutions rust converter. The rust converter is dry, and here is the completed project. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.